One of the questions that I get asked on repeat is about data science. So today on this episode, I thought I would talk to you a bit more about data science, my career in data science, and a few bits and bobs that might be interesting for you to know if you are considering a career in data science. Hi, I'm Sudeshna from The Abundant Psyche, and you are listening to the Not So Corporate podcast. Here we talk about all of those not so corporate things that we corporate entrepreneurs do within and outside our corporate lives. And today I'm going to specifically talk to you about a career I have spent a decade in, and is data science. I know data science is dubbed as one of the hottest careers, the sexiest careers, the coolest careers of the 21st century. And I'm here to give you a bit of a more nuanced picture into what is data science. So let's start from the very beginning. What is data science? Data science is a combination of three skill sets, not one, not two, but three. You are better at writing code than a statistician or a business person. You are better at statistics than a business person or a computer science person. And you are better at understanding business than someone who's a computer scientist, researcher, statistics. And when these three things combine, you get the field of data science. It's not one over the other. It's not one more than the other. It's not one better than the other. It is a combination of those three skills. And this is exactly why data science is quite a lucrative career to be in, because people who can simultaneously do multiple things well are rare in this world. Which is why I keep saying create multiple skill sets and combine them so that you become your own market. But more on that later in some other episode. But data science essentially is the culmination of you being skilled in those three specific domains. So you know how to write code a bit better than a business person would. A business person honestly can't code much if you think about it. You are better at statistics than a computer scientist. And this is a very crucial point here, because I know of late a lot of computer scientists tend to think that they are data scientists, but this point about statistics is so important that you cannot have a solid, robust model without a grounding in statistics. And why do I say that? There are so many algorithms out there that are genuinely based on certain statistical principles. For example, there are algorithms that are based on the underlying data set being a normal distribution. And if that doesn't make sense to you, go do a YouTube search or a Google search, you'll get what I mean. Sometimes algorithms don't follow the data distribution that your data set might have, and there, if you use another algorithm, it might just be better off at performance, at accuracy, and be a more representative model of your data set. Sometimes that's not the case, and when that's not the case, you end up with a ton of machine learning bias, and there's a lot of nuance around that. Bias in itself is a very, very big topic in machine learning, in data science, in the AI world, and the whole world is grappling with that. But what I did want to say is that if you think that you don't need grounding in statistics, then you become this amazing data scientist, you are probably kidding yourself, and you are probably being a bit irresponsible. Equally, if you are just a statistician and you can't code, your function in the corporate world is going to be quite limited. Similarly for business. So I know a ton of really, really good statisticians, computer scientists, and probably people who do both together brilliantly, but their business acumen is not as high. So what they end up becoming is a data analyst rather than a data scientist. And the business knowledge, the domain knowledge that goes with data science is what makes data scientists so valuable to businesses. Now, a lot of you tend to ask me, how did I become a data scientist? Because a few of you probably know that I have a master's in economics. So it seems like I don't really come from a related field, but probably economists make the best data scientists, because when we are doing our degree, we have quite a good grounding in statistics because we are working with a ton of data, because economics by its nature is working with a lot of data. And therefore, we have quite a rigorous training in statistics. And because statistics and programming go hand in hand in today's modern day, we also tend to work a lot with statistical software. So one of the softwares that are used quite frequently in the data science world called R, I used to use that back in my university days. And then if I talk about business, economics is business. You can't get a more businessy degree than having a degree in economics. So economics will teach you all about demand and supply. That's economics 101. It'll also teach you about the production curves, the consumption curves, the utility curves, and all of that jazz. And therefore, economics by its very nature lends itself phenomenally well to data science, right? And to be honest with you, I took it probably one step further. I wanted to take all of the quantitative courses as well. And therefore, I went and did a ton of quantitative work, worked a lot. Like, I programmed a lot during my master's. It was almost an addiction. Any of you coders out there, you probably know what I mean. Coding is somewhat addictive. So yeah, I basically spent a ton of sleepless nights just working on models and working with data and numbers and making it intuitive to business. And I used to work a ton on the financial markets data, which is also why my first job at Deloitte was around financial risk management. So that's how I became a data scientist. Some of you might wonder about the fact that I changed my career about 10 times. What was that about? And that's another episode. I'll link that down below in the description box. You can go have a listen at that. But data is the one thing that's run consistently through all of my jobs, and I was always working with data even before actually. When my pre-corporate life, during my student life, I used to be a digital marketing person. I was also working with data in some shape or form back then. And since then, it just continued. I have always been close to data and business, and that's how I became a data scientist. The third question that I get asked about on repeat about data science is, what are the top skills that you require to become a data scientist? So the first skill, I would say, I say this to everyone who comes to ask me about data: domain knowledge. And you just cannot beat this one, because unless for the business inherently, it becomes really, really difficult for you to be intuitive about the data, about what you are prescribing out of the data, whether the data is making sense or not. And that doesn't happen overnight. You have to develop the knowledge of the domain. You have to give it a few years, which is also why you'll find me say that try and stick to one industry if possible, because with that comes a ton of domain knowledge that anyone outside of that industry is frankly not well versed with. For example, I know banking quite well, I know fintech quite well. It's not necessarily the case that I know health tech as well, or I know pharmaceuticals that well. So every industry has their own nuance. And for me, as a data science person, the number one skill set that I look for is, do you have the domain knowledge? The second skill set, surprise, doesn't belong to the three bits that I already told you about is communication. You see, a lot of times people over exaggerate the amount of technical skills that you require to become a data scientist. Do you require technical skills? Absolutely you do. But is that the thing that's going to make you great at your job? Probably not, because technical skills is expected. What is going to make you brilliant at your job is your communication skills. Anyone who's feeling like they are technical and their communication skills are not the sharpest is that, you see, technical talk is something that's hard to translate into understandable spoken English. But most business people don't really understand technicals or data, or it's been a while since they have last worked with this sort of skill set. So if you have the ability to actually communicate all of the brilliant technical stuff that you are doing and turn it into a compelling narrative that'll help you communicate with your stakeholders better, that on any given day is going to be one of the top skill sets that you'll add to your data science toolkit. And along with that, I will mention the third skill, which is the skill of influencing. They go hand in hand, communicating and influencing, because the more you can influence your stakeholders to look at the problem through your eyes, the better your chance of making an impact in your organization. And that happens when you can tell a compelling, and telling a compelling story with data is, again, like I say, not a trivial problem to solve. It's not something that happens overnight. You need an enormous amount of domain knowledge for that as well. I can do all of the data crunching, but if I don't know what it means in the context of the domain, I will just be double guessing myself around what is the story. But your domain knowledge will lend itself to communicating, to influencing your stakeholders by telling a compelling story and narrative about the technical bits in the data. Obviously, on any given day, if I tell you a story about why you should not have water after you have dinner versus I tell you, oh, by the way, don't drink any water after dinner, what do you think will stick more? The fact that I told you, hey, your stomach has a lot of hydrochloric acid, and if you drink water, the acid's diluted and your metabolism will slow down. Are you more likely to listen to me when I say that versus when I say, hey, don't drink water? This is what the data suggests, right? You have to have a story to tell to the stakeholders, and that to me is one of the three top skills that a data scientist should have. And then the fourth, of course, you have to know statistics. Like I said, to me, this goes over and above the programming, because programming, the languages keep changing, but statistics doesn't change. The laws of statistics remain relatively all right within the realms of our purposes, and the rules of statistics also dictate what algorithms you should be working with. And if you are not trained in statistics, it becomes incredibly difficult to understand whether your model's robust or not. As a hiring manager, I get quite anxious about whether this person actually knows and will understand the nuances of the model that they are going to put on top of the data. So to me, a training in statistics is vital to becoming a data scientist. And then of course coding, because we live in the 21st century, we need to code, we need to get answers out, we need modular codes and all of those good things, and we need to store it somewhere nice. So those were my top 5 skills, and probably in that order. Actually, without domain knowledge, you can't really have the communication and the influencing skills. The communication skills are more important than the influencing skills to me, because sometimes even when you don't have domain knowledge, just because of your communication skills, you stand out. Influencing skills come as a package with all of that, programming and statistics. And then just a fun little tidbit for you. For all of my data science friends in here, or all of my statisticians in here, please do understand whatever I'm going to say from now till the end of this section is that an average is just an average. It's not a representation of the whole. It's not a mean. It's not the minimum. It's not the maximum. It's not the median. It's just a mean, an average, right? Okay, right. I wanted to get you some information on data science salaries because it's dubbed as one of the more lucrative professions around. And what I have to say is that in the UK, we have about 32K, or in the US, we have about 67K to be around the rough average figure for a data analyst. A data analyst is slightly different from a data scientist in that they don't bring in the business knowledge in with them. And they perhaps also don't have as much of technical programming knowledge. They are more of the business intelligence folks, right? So that's for data analysts. For data scientists in the UK, they make anywhere around the 48,000 mark per year. And in the US, they make about 117 to 120K mark. When you get to the head of data science, that sort of managerial position. So as a head of data science in the UK, you can expect to make around the 97 to 100K mark. In the US, it's about the 200K mark. And then you have researchers who are pure researchers. They are not really related to business. They can expect to make around the 67 to 70K mark in the UK and around the 150K mark in the US. Of course, these are, like I said, very rough average numbers. Whoever you ask will probably say a very different salary. There's a huge spectrum. There's a minimum, there's a maximum, there's a median. I have not gotten down the rabbit hole of trying to get you all of those informations because the moment I tell you something, it'll change the next moment, right? So there's no point in getting you that information. But as of 2022, this is what I'm seeing. And then people ask me, is data science a good career? And to that I say, what does good mean? Good in terms of salary? Yes, if you are a data scientist, you'll probably be able to live comfortably through your life, even if you just did that job for the rest of your life. Because I think anyone who's getting into data science right now, they are pretty well positioned to make a career out of that for the next 20 years. Will it challenge you? Will you learn every single day? Absolutely. Like, I think data science as a career has been incredibly satisfying to me because I have gotten to work with such a variety of people. I've gotten to work with all business units. I've gotten to work with the best programmers, the best statisticians out there, but also work with policymakers and work with businesses and very senior leaders, CEOs of some companies. So it's been an incredibly satisfying career. So in terms of that, I would say that yes, data science is an amazing career choice. But of course, with every career path, there comes a couple of challenges, right? One of them in data science is that people who get into the field, who are attracted to this field, are very curious and they love to learn. And what that automatically means is that every couple of years, if you don't give them a new challenge, you have the risk of losing them for good in your organization. And it's not really always about how much money you are paying. That becomes a problem. Right now, the market's super hot. So of course, data scientists are in demand. The good ones anyway are always going to be in demand. So money is less of a problem, but from a personal perspective, I think as a data scientist, the challenge is to get your company to actually believe in your vision, to get your leaders to believe in your vision. And when you get that, that's an amazing feeling and you can continue growing and growing and growing. But sometimes, especially in the older organizations, non-tech organizations, what ends up happening is that senior leaders don't know what the cutting edge tech is in the market, and they therefore just don't know what they don't know. And sometimes you hit that ceiling. So that's one of the things that I would say about data science as a limitation, but with an asterisk, because if you are good at communicating your vision and influencing your stakeholders, that also becomes relatively straightforward to achieve within your organization. The bigger the organization, the more non-techy the organization, the more of a challenge it becomes. And then the second thing I would say about a data science career is that data science is not typically considered a traditional business career. So what I mean by that is we folks are generally very technically adept, but that's not the business that most businesses are in, meaning that they are not selling data or data science to be in business. So what ends up happening is that as you grow through the ranks, there's a certain level that you hit. And beyond that, if you want to grow further, you have to step out of the realm of data science and define a bigger role for yourself, which may contain data science, but also needs to contain a few other elements. Because like I said, data science alone can't deliver the business. For example, if you think of Sundar Pichai, he grew as a product manager at Google and he was coding in his younger days. Obviously, he's not coding right now. So your role has to grow, grow, grow. So what I'm trying to say is the head of data or a head of data science path is typically not the route to CEO path. A head of data can go on to become a CTO at some point and then eventually move over to a CEO role, potentially in a tech company. Typically speaking, if you are not working in data science within a tech company or a data analytics company, your growth might be stunted at some. Of course, you don't have to boil the ocean. You just need to talk to a career advisor, career coach at that point, and you'll be able to figure out other things, other options for you, I'm sure. And if you are struggling, if you are at that point now, there's a career change blueprint linked down in the description box here. You can have a look at that and that should give you some ideas. Or if you are in desperate need to speak to someone about where that ceiling can lead you to, feel free to drop me an email on sudeshna@theabundancepsyche.com and I'll get back to you.